Evil Dead Rise is the newest Evil Dead movie, and I gotta say, I really freaking love this movie. I was very shocked about that because, don't get me wrong, I really like the Evil Dead movies, love them even. But my favorite is Army of Darkness, and everyone after that is good, but not Army of Darkness good to me. Like, that's my favorite Evil Dead movie. This is still a great movie, don't get me wrong, but what I'm surprised about this movie is it scared me, like, a lot. And I'll tell you this, I'm not an easily scared person when it comes to horror movies. The horror movies that have scared me are just like, off the top of my head, Hereditary and Midsummer. Those aren't the usual type of movies that, horror fans look for and stuff. They're, a lot more art house here and stuff, but they're good movies. And seeing this shit really got to me. And so let's talk about what really worked about this movie as an Evil Dead movie. So I can kind of explain better why this movie really got me. This really worked as an Evil Dead movie because it's not a cabin type movie. Though it has elements of that, and that we'll get into that in my negatives. This movie is about a family trapped in a house, and normally with movies with children, young children, like horror movies, they're usually very lazy. The children aren't great actors, and the movie has a lot of issues because of that. The kids don't usually feel like they're in danger of dying. The whole movie, all the kids are in danger of dying, and let's just say some things do happen to these kids throughout this movie, and that added to why I was so afraid during this movie. Is like I actually felt something for these kids. I didn't want to see their family ripped apart and things like that, and the struggle of that, and it's just horrific. The amount of gore and violence in this movie really got to me too. I have a very weak stomach, so on screen vomiting, things like that really got to me personally, but that may not get to everybody. But for the most part, I think the family stuff will get to everybody. Will help you be really afraid because this is a very different scenario, than the other Evil Dead movies where it's just some people out in a cabin, some girls and some guys doing their thing. This is just like a family. You know things about them, you care about them, and you want to see them survive. And so that come get some moment at towards the end of the movie, that kind of Ash type moment, that our one of our lead characters has, feels so victorious because of the fact that you really care about this family, and it's just great. And it still keeps that very low budget filmmaking, but this film is able to make me feel a lot more claustrophobic than those other Evil Dead movies did. Also, the gore is just insane. Like, this is one of the most violent horror movies I've seen in a long time, and it's really gruesome in the best ways possible. And the worst part about this movie is the opening and the ending. So basically, these parts of the movies feel like they could be really great setups for Evil Dead short films or Evil Dead movies in the future. Like, I'd be fine if that scene was at the end of the credits, and then it was like cut to black, and you're like, what happened? And then they made that a movie. But in terms of this movie, like, especially the opening, you watch that opening, you're like, what's this? Is this going to factor in the rest of the movie? Doesn't at all. And it just leaves you confused as an audience member. Though I think most people will forget about that while they're actually watching the movie, but still a thought that I had. And then the ending, same thing. It just really bothered me. But other than that, I thought this movie was really solid. Great scares. Also, I really like the practical effects, and the CGI effects, because a lot of it is easy, a lot of it is modern technology. But you also see that kind of like stop motiony feel to a lot of these creatures and stuff. And so it leads to some really awesome stuff. So it has the roots of the classic Evil Dead, has the roots of the remake in it too, and it brings all these things together to make its own fresh thing within this franchise. And that's what I really like about this franchise up until this point. There's 5 Evil Dead movies now, and each one brings something very different to the table, is its own thing, and is able to really give you a good time. None of these movies are great, or well, I'm not. No, none of these movies are like, they're great, all of them. But what's the right wording here? I want to rephrase what I'm saying here. Um, None of these movies are so great that it makes someone wrong to think someone's their favorite. And what I mean by that is like, opinions are just opinions. But like, with Star Wars, most people agree Empire Strikes Back's their favorite. With um, like, most franchises have a consensus of which one's the best. And that doesn't mean you always have to agree with that, but that's usually the case. Evil Dead doesn't really have that. Some people love Evil Dead 2. Some people love Army of Darkness. Some people love the remake. It's all over the place because all these movies are so good and offer such different and unique things to this franchise. And it leads me to even love a movie like this that's so different from the rest of the franchise, but also not. Follows very different characters. There's no Ash in this movie, unlike the rest of the franchise. But that really doesn't matter because it's an awesome movie. Evil Dead Rise might be my third favorite movie of the year behind it. Air and Dungeons and Dragons. It is an awesome horror movie. It's definitely my favorite horror movie of the year. Not that it really has that much competition. I've heard great things about Skinamarink, but I haven't seen that. And I've other than that, I haven't really seen any other like really really great horror movies. To be honest, I mean Scream was okay, but who knows?